Season 1, Episode 5 of Percy Jackson and the Olympians is out in the world now. A god buys us a cheeseburger. And I have a lot of thoughts, so let's just dive into it. Here is my review for Episode 5 of Percy Jackson and the Olympians. Again, non-spoilers, spoilers, book-related. That is the order we will be going in. So, starting, of course, with the non-spoiler section. Overall, pretty good episode. I don't think it was as strong as the previous episode, even though I had some issues with the previous. The moments that were strong were specifically in regards to Percy and Annabeth as a duo, but also, interestingly, Grover and Ares as a duo as well. I think the character moments were, again, really strong. Same thing as what happened in last week's episode, but I do think there are a few issues that I have with where the pacing is going with this. I do think the episode in general was it was a strong episode. I do think there were moments that really worked in the episode itself, but I think, I don't know, there was something that didn't fully hit for me. It's just starting to feel a little bit fast paced at this moment. I do see why people were talking about this being one of the strongest episodes, because it does have really strong emotional beats specifically between Percy and Annabeth. But on the other side, so at the start of the episode and kind of near the end of the episode-ish, mainly the start of the episode, I think, is where it was kind of lacking, because there wasn't as much of a connective thread to the previous episode. Where the previous episode ends, we just kind of skip over what happens there. And I think that's a little bit of an issue. And it's showing where some of the pacing is kind of becoming a bit of a problem again. And that seems to maybe be the issue next week, considering what we were shown in the next time at the end of the episode. But that's a conversation for next week. Obviously, I've not actually seen the episode. Although, Disney, if you want to send me the episodes early, I am available. I know I'm critiquing here, but I'm still really enjoying the shows. But if you want a British person on the screeners list, I am available. So, you know, my emails are connected to the YouTube channel, just saying. But yeah. Overall, strong, specifically character related, not as strong plot related, which was the same issues I had last week, and is a little bit concerning considering how close to the end we are. We're 3 episodes away from the finale, so we need more plot. But that's kind of all I have for the non-spoiler section. I think, actor-wise, standout, The Edge as Ares, I think, was a big standout. He really played the character well, gave it his own twist. I like some of the comedic element that's coming from Ares instead of him being a bit of an arse like he is in the books. Just his characterization in the show, I'm enjoying a lot more than how he is shown in the books. It feels a bit more realistic and a little less hammed up, which I'm really enjoying. But yeah, that's all I have for non-spoilers. So, as per, I have my notes to the spoiler section, so let's just dive into it. Here, from now on, are spoilers. We do have quite a few things that happen in this. The thing that, and I mentioned this a little bit in the non-spoiler section, the thing that frustrated me the most with how this episode starts is the dialogue to begin with at the start feels a bit off for some reason. I don't really know why. I just didn't really work. Leading up to the scene when we first meet Ares, the dialogue and conversation between the three feels really out of place. Not out of place, just feels off. Like, it feels like there's no relationship between them. I think it was a specific piece of dialogue when they're talking about the fates. They're hid behind like a pillar because someone's coming past and they're now fugitives, which is interesting they brought that in. Not so sure how I like it was done, but I'll talk about that in the book spoiler related section. But there's a scene where they're talking about the fates and how Annabeth saw them cut a string, which means someone of the 3 is going to die. Percy says, we need to talk about the fates, and then talks about the fates. That line of we need to talk about the fates, for some reason, just read really weird. Sounded really weird to me. I don't know what it was. Anyway, it's not significant, but the dialogue was a little bit iffy for me at the start of the episode. And then we meet Ares, and it picks up and it gets a lot stronger. Like I said before, Edge as Ares, stellar. Absolutely fantastic. Drew me in immediately as Ares. I was so intrigued, so interested in his character. Ares is probably my favourite god. Well, favourite god so far in this series. I don't know, he's intriguing to me as a character. Admittedly, he's the only god beside Dionysus that we've seen a lot of. Where he's so dynamic, he has so much character. And I just I love him. His whole thing with Grover, when Grover talks about, Athena's everyone always giving a lot of credit and then there's you. And he's just like, yes, thank you. Athena gets way too much credit. I mean, she's best friends with an owl. That's weird, man. Not saying those exact words, but that whole scene. And even when Grover was deliberately manipulating him, which I love. Props to Grover for being really cool this episode. Talking about the different wars, and it's I'm really interested in these wars, your sort of mellower work of, and it was specifically the wars where a lot of people, most people don't die in them. And Ares yeah, thank you. So many people don't talk about those wars anymore. I'm just feeling really appreciated. I don't know, I just really liked it. Edge's acting was fantastic. I really want to interview him if I can. I may message him on Instagram or something, because he was so good. I really enjoyed him this episode. It was really cool. I just he really embodies what I really wanted Ares to be like in the books, and I'm kind of hoping they keep this characterization of him instead of what does happen in the books, which I will talk about in the book spoiler section as well. For Grover, just because I did mention it, he is really good in this episode. He is very different from the books, but I think in a really good way, because he is not meek like he is in the books, and again I'll talk about that a little bit more in the book spoiler section. He's very manipulative this episode, specifically towards Ares, which I really, really like. Because he's smart. He knows the world. He's been around, well, he's only been around for 24 years. He's younger than me, which is horrifying. But, he knows a lot. And he knows how to get on the god's good side. And he knows how to play to their egos. And I just really like seeing this smart side to him. But yeah, that whole scene between Grover and Ares, really strong. Similar to the situation with Percy and Annabeth and their scenes at the water park, which was a side quest for Ares. I love that they've got the side quest. Them kind of getting closer, them talking a bit more about the gods together, but also them standing up for each other and trying to, show that they care about each other now. They've grown closer already. They are both ready to sacrifice each other to be able to continue the quest. And I like the change that they have for the water park scene, because it's more Hephaestus focused than it is in the books. Again, I'll talk about that in a second. But the fact that Percy's just look, you know how to carry this quest on. You are better at this than me. Which admittedly, I feel like they've not shown that well. He's saying you're better at this than me, but we've not really been shown that she's been so much stronger on this quest so far. She's been good. She's helped get them away from Echidna and stuff to begin with, and she knew how what to do with Medusa. Not that we were told or shown that that was her plan or anything like that. In fact, we were made to make it look like it was Grover. I don't know. We've not been shown enough of Annabeth working things out and being this huge asset to the quest. Not to say she isn't an asset, but it's more we've just not had that shown to us in a way that makes it clear that yes, she should be the one to continue the quest, because she is the one who has consistently been stronger on the quest. Because currently it just looks like only Percy has been strong, because he's the one who's been doing a lot of the stuff. But again, conversation for later. What I do really like though is when Percy does make the sacrifice and is swallowed up by the chair, Annabeth, she has the shield, she can go, and she's like, no, I need to find a way to see if I can save him. I know the gods couldn't figure out the chair, but maybe I can. And Hephaestus comes in, and I wish we got a bit more focus on Hephaestus. I feel like we didn't get much visual of Hephaestus. He's just kind of there in the background, just over the top of them, looking down on them. Not actually looking down on them, just he's just high up. I feel like we could have gotten a few more close-ups of him, or just when we don't even have a lot of visuals of when he's talking. We're looking at Annabeth the most for her reactions, but it'd be nice if we'd had some shots of him whilst he was talking. But him seeing Annabeth, who has just been given a way out, say, no, I want to try and save him because, you know, he doesn't allow glory and ego to take over like the gods and like I did. He just wants to help. He just wants to do what's right. And that's why she wants to save him. And that's why Hephaestus lets him go. Because he's like, you know, you're doing the right thing. Like, Hephaestus is the better god. I may really like Aegis Ares, but Hephaestus is the better god. And Tim, and I know, I've forgotten your last name, I'm really sorry. The actor playing Hephaestus did a fantastic job as him. Just kind of like that sort of sadness about him, which we get an idea of like why he would be sad, because we see his story played out on the walls whilst they're going through the tunnel of love, which Percy knows the story about. I don't know, I really like seeing a softer side to a god, but I do wish we'd had a bit more visual focus on him. But seeing Percy and Annabeth, their whole dynamic, how much they've changed from their first interactions to where they are now. Like, you know, they've gone through a lot already. It makes sense that they're kind of working through it. Annabeth has not really had friends before. She's not really had experiences outside of camp since she was 7. And like, we even hear that she's never seen a movie before, which, God, that makes her home life so sad. And I think I'm right that she misjudged what her situation with her dad actually was like. But I like the development of that relationship. I think there is a problem going on with the characterization of Annabeth and the characterization of Percy. But for now, just for the spoilers, not book related, pretty good. I do think there are some pacing issues that are popping up because we're not really getting much plot related. There's a hint that Ares may have found the lightning thief from his conversation with Grover. And there's a conversation that they have before meeting Ares about, you know, Hades couldn't have gotten the lightning bolt, which means a demigod had to. Who could it be, etc., etc. But that's the first time they've talked about this since episode 2. And then they kind of don't really talk about it again until Grover mentions it to Ares. I don't know, there's just... Oh, and then there's talking about, you know, war's probably going to come anyway, even if the lightning bolt is returned. I don't know, there's not much plot. It's the side quest episode, and we're 3 episodes away from the finale, and we don't really know where we're going plot-wise. There's not a lot of setup for what's going on with this thief situation. So you can probably see my problems there. But that's all I have for the spoiler section. I'm going to head into the book spoiler section now, because that is where the main section of my problems are with this episode. Because, book spoilers now, Annabeth feels like she's getting a little bit of, sorry to invoke it, the Ron Weasley from Harry Potter in the movies situation, where a lot of her information providing to the characters, in this case Percy, who doesn't know much of the world, is being taken away because they changed the fact that Percy knows nothing about mythology, because his mum and Grover, as it looks from the first episode, has been teaching him about mythology. He's the one who tells the story about Hephaestus when they are in the boat and they're seeing his story, and he tells it. He's then the one who tells Annabeth the story about Hephaestus's chair where he trapped Hera so he could marry Aphrodite. Not inherently bad, but it does take away, like, that doesn't happen in the books, obviously. It's a spider situation, which I think they switched around for something more Hephaestus related, but also it would have been a lot of CGI for the robotic spiders. And yeah, it makes more sense that Hephaestus would do this. But anyway, I don't know, it feels like they're taking away the intellect side of Annabeth a little bit. Not fully, but the fact that she is not having to guide Percy, she is not needing to tell him anything, he just knows, to the point that he's kind of telling her the stories. It makes it look like Annabeth doesn't know, because he's telling her this story and she's listening to him. Which makes no sense. She's been living at camp. Really, she should be the one telling him to tell the audience, because the whole thing is we're being told these stories so the audience knows these stories. But Percy telling it makes no sense, because Percy is meant to be the audience stand-in. He may know some things, but he should know a lot of things. Annabeth should be the one telling him this, which is why I feel like they're trying to kind of make her not a Hermione, someone who is a girl in a trio who provides information and is smart. But by doing that, they're limiting her a lot because she's not really having much engagement with this story. We've not seen huge acts of, intellect and bravery and her being, central to the quest to the point that, like, if they didn't have her, they'd be dead multiple times over, because that's not true. She's had some good moments, but that whole conversation they have of, like, you'll be the one who can finish this quest. Well, yeah, she can. We do know she's capable, but we're not really being shown enough of that. I don't know. I just feel like they've reduced her a little bit in terms of her characterization in comparison to the book. And I don't know if I like it that much. A character that I do like the changes to is Grover, because Grover is a standout. He is so meek in the books until much later, but he is standing up to gods. He's manipulating gods in this episode. Like, he is getting Ares to reveal information. He's getting Ares to open up. And he is he is detecting, he is sleuthing the hell out of Ares in this episode, to the point that he has an idea of the lightning thief, which I do think is going to be a red herring, because I think they're leading it towards being like, oh, Clarice may have stolen the bolt because Ares wants war. So red herring situation, but I'm not too sure. But I do love that Grover is like, he's sleuthing, he's smart, he's manipulative, he knows what he's doing. And I really enjoyed that. I like that Grover is having more of a role. Brilliant moment. Again, Ares, love that he's not he's a dick, but he's not awful. He's not horrendous in this section. So I like that they've changed his character a little bit, because yeah, let's not make him an abuser. That'd be great to not make him an abuser. But speaking of someone who is also an abuser in the books, who has changed slightly in the show, the fugitive storyline is weird. It makes sense to a degree how this has come to be in the show as it is. The Gabe element feels really weird. Especially him saying that he thinks Percy is responsible for Sally's disappearance. I don't know. It doesn't feel like it fits into the story. I don't know. It's just, there's something about it that just felt really off. The future stuff I can get behind. The Gabe element of it, just, I don't know. It feels a bit ham-fisted in, because I don't know. There are some issues that I'm finding with the pacing. Again, like I said, there's very little plot in this episode. From what it looks like next week, it looks like they're condensing a lot of Lotus Hotel for next week, but again, I'll talk about that next week. Hey, editing Fran here. Forgot to mention, so start of the episode is where the pacing I think is a problem, and also the lack of plot, because we skip over what happened at the end of the previous episode and skip over actually what happened. Percy says we've got to go to Santa Monica Pier, and they don't address it again. And from what it looks like next episode, they're doing the Santa Monica Pier, which is the pearls, of getting the pearls to go to the underworld. And for me, they should have done it, and I think I said it last week as well, they should have done that in that episode, in episode 4, because they could have mentioned plot in this episode if they'd done that, and it's just going to condense so much more of the Lotus thing. I don't know, there's just some weird choices happening, I think, plot-wise. But let's get back to it, I just had to mention it. The problem that I'm having is we do not have a setup for what is going to happen. We do have the Cronus name drop, which is great. Probably should have happened sooner, if I'm honest. But not too much of an issue to happen here. But we do not have the setup for Luke. We do not have the setup for the Lightning Thief. Honestly, the fact that there wasn't a mention that it was probably a demigod who stole it in episode 2/3, I think is also the problem, because they're just saying, at least not much of it, I may need to go back and rewatch it, but there's no setup for Luke being the thief, there's no setup for Luke being in cahoots with Kronos, there's no setups for Kronos and his involvement, there's no setup for, the drama that's going to go down. Percy also was not that antagonistic with Ares. Like, he didn't really pick a fight with Ares until very randomly at the end. Annabeth was more antagonistic towards Aries, which was weird. This is what I mean, they've really changed Annabeth's personality in this, which I don't really know how I feel about that. But yeah, I think overall, I think it was a strong episode for character. It was just a really weak episode for plot. They're setting things up, but they're setting it up way too late, if I'm honest. And I'm concerned for how next week is going to go. Because like I said, we've got 3 episodes left and we've not got enough setup for so many of the things that are the climactic aspects of the book that set up the rest of the series. So I'll probably give this episode a 3 out of 5, if I'm honest. Maybe that's a bit too harsh. 3.5 out of 5, I'd say. No, I'm being too harsh. 3.8 out of 5, because again, it was really strong character-wise. I'm just noticing more of the flaws because of how close to the end we are. I feel like the show should have been released all at once, if I'm honest, because I think the problem is the weekly episodes, because you're not getting the flow. But we'll see when I do my season finale and series overall review, whether or not binging helped. But yeah, that's kind of all I have to say for this episode. Strong character-wise, weak in plot, and minor concerns in regards to that. But what do you guys think? Did you enjoy this episode? Do you think it was strong? What are your ratings? Let me know in the comment section down below. As always, be sure to subscribe, share with your friends, check out my Patreon, check out my books. And thank you all for tuning in, and I will see you all next time.